Hello, welcome to Color Me Happy podcast. My name is Brandy Hofer. Hold on, I have to open the door for Teddy here. We're at Grandpa's for Thanksgiving, and I've decided to come and sit outside and do my weekend inspiration right from the beautiful fall, in this beautiful fall day. Yeah, it's because I just don't want to miss it. I don't want to sit in my studio is beautiful, but this is magical beyond. So I'm just surround myself with it. Our theme for this week is gratitude for the journey. As I sit out here watching the crisp fall leaves drift and dance whimsically from the treetops, I'm reminded that time is always turning. The tree is honoring the season and the shedding of itself to sit dormant and still for the vast winter days ahead, trusting that in spring it will birth a new set of leaves and buds to blossom into its full potential. The tree trusts in its seasonal cycle and journey. All elements of its transformation are vital to its purpose on this earth. This week, we sat with Guest Terri Broughton, an artist in the UK, on our Color Me Happy podcast. Obviously, you're here, so this is it. But hearing of her hardships in this life, it was hard to know what to say or do or how to react to them. Because the simple fact that this woman sat before me seemed like a miracle in itself. This woman, this resilient, brilliant woman, power, love, and hope is what Terri represents. All that she has witnessed and been victim to played a vital role in how she has impacted the world around her. On this fall day, surrounded by burnt umber and every shade in between, I can only ask myself, what brought me to this beautiful place and moment in my life? Everything that came before. Would I change it? No. I'm grateful for my journey. The journey that strengthened my skin and prepared me for the sandstorms of what has happened and what will when I walk on my path through this life. My journey, your journey. What a beautiful one it has been. What strength lies in those footsteps, one placed in front of the next, not knowing what is to come, but trusting that these are the movements and elements vital as they are to the trees, to our purpose here on this earth. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces. Practice it whenever you can. Use it to impact the world. You have the ability and choice to leave this place a better one than when you arrived. Close your eyes. Feel the breeze gently kiss your face. And know that wherever you are, the wind will have your back. Do this every day. It's so important. Thank you so much for being here, friend. And I hope you really enjoyed this beautiful, beautiful connection and podcast with this amazing, resilient woman, Terri.
Well, good for you. I love your work. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think the way you encourage kids is amazing. So
yeah, I've kind of found myself more on the haven't been in the studio journey, but mostly just trying to make a difference journey. And I think that's a better one. They're both very valuable and legitimate, but this one is beyond myself. So it's going to impact lives for generations. So that's the path and journey I'm on right now. And it's a tough one. But
it doesn't matter. It's important. So, but thank you, Terri, for being here with me. I see your beautiful work behind you. And speaking of important work, I can't wait to hear about your story, because we did talk a little bit on Instagram and we messaged back and forth. And so I just want to start from the beginning, of, you know, your story as a creative and your story as an educator, and your life, you know, as a mother, and being a mother artist too. So did you get a formal education?
An art education?
Yeah.
It's all a bit convoluted. I'll start right from the very beginning. Okay. Cool. So I have two sisters, both older than me. One's 7 years older than me, one 3 years older than me, and then me. I'm the youngest. When I was 6, my mother died, unfortunately. She had an asthma attack. And at that time in the UK, in 63, the ambulance couldn't get through the snow. So unfortunately, I lost my mother. And then, so my eldest... My father had very bad depression, was in and out of hospital. And so my sister, who was 11, was sort of raising two of us, or attempting to. And then eventually we stayed with lots of different families. People stepped in. I think at last count, something like 17 families before the age of 7. It was ridiculous. And then my eldest sister went to a children's home. I didn't see her again until my teenage years. And then my middle sister lived with me for a little while. We were in a pretty dysfunctional place. She ran away, which left me there. And at that time, my belief was that I was I'm dyslexic. I felt very different to other people. And so I sort of survived school. But when I was, I think maybe 8, I came home from school very excited. I'd won a certificate for art. And I'd said to the person I was living with, you know, I've got this certificate. And she pointed at me. And I think the reason was because my father ended his own life, and there was a bit of shame around that. And he was a painter. And she looked at me and said, "You are not a painter. Your father was a painter." And it felt like an order. And I believed that my whole life. Well, clearly not now, but until I was 61. So, and then I was engaged at 15, married at 18. I didn't know any better. And I was married for 14 years. It wasn't the greatest marriage, but, you know, we were okay. But towards the end of that marriage, I've always been fascinated by the arts, always. But I believed I wasn't intelligent. But I took a pottery A-level and was just immersed in the language of ceramics, and then artists were coming into this. And I became very excited. And then it was suggested that I took something called a BTEC. I don't know if you have them in Canada. A qualification. And
I just don't know the formal name of anything.
I managed to get a distinction in this qualification, by which time my marriage had broken up. And so I had 2 very young children. My son has a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome. So very different to other children growing up, getting him through school. And my daughter's a high flyer. She's a head of arts in an academy in Norfolk, in the UK. But with that, it came with its own set of issues. You know, trying to manage 2 very different, beautiful children with very different needs. But anyway, I took some time out, and then eventually I went to university. I met my now husband. We've been together for 32 years, the love of my life. And he's been very encouraging. So I took a degree in ceramics. The funny thing is, I came out with a first And what was more important to me was that I had to go and get a maths GCSE, which is you take it at school, and I didn't. So I had to take a year to take this maths GCSE in order to do other things. I became an art therapist for a short while whilst I was doing my maths GCSE and various other things. And then I took a PGCE, a postgraduate certificate of education, and I walked into a community college. So that was, the ages then were 14 to 18. And it was an exam factory. And I thought, how on earth can I get these students through? And I felt like a fraud as well, because my degree was in ceramics, not the arts, or not art, painting. And so I devised this piece of research, which I used for a master's degree, called the Identity Project. I was fascinated by how, when I first met the students, they had vases of flowers, pictures of themselves, pop groups, but it didn't tell me anything about them. It didn't tell me who they were, where they were coming from, what were their hopes, their beliefs, their fears. So the first part of the project was to look at how I see myself. And we were looking at the work of other painters at the time as well, and sculptors and ceramicists. And as they were looking at this question, they started to write poetry. I'd found poetry on my desk. They started to keep journals. It was their own decision to do this. And instead of having a final piece of work for their exam, they had 15 final. They had so many different pieces, because as their thinking and their feelings changed, so did their paintings. So then when they felt, I believe, when they felt held, not judged, and were free to experiment, they were producing the most amazing pieces of work. I mean, I was blown away. There were three parts of the project: how I see myself, how I would like to be seen, and how I think other people see me. To be honest, most of them sat between the first two, how I see myself, because there was a total dichotomy. It was so different. But the grades were amazing. The kids did well. I'm still in touch with several of them. If I give you an example, one lad, his poem that went with his artwork said, when you see me, what do you see? Is it me or someone you want me to be? Do you see what I see? How do you want me to change? And what makes you think I'd rearrange my life for you? You don't know me. I don't know me.
Oh my God.
That's one of several of these first year A-level students' poetry. It was phenomenal. And as a result of that, somebody from the national curriculum for the whole of the UK came out to see me and said, this should be in every school. You know, it's a really seminal piece of work. I believe it to this day. And it is in the UK. It's in all schools now. So then I went out to primary schools. I thought, I wonder how little ones would respond to a question like this. It was much more optimistic. So pictures of butterflies, jobs that they'd like to do when they grew up, much more optimistic. And then I went out to an old people's home, and I thought, well, what happens at the other end of the spectrum? My question through my own artwork and through everything really is, what would happen if I didn't do it at the optimum age? What would happen if this? You know, it's a question I ask myself continuously. And then I got very involved in the world of coaching and psychotherapy. So lots and lots of study around that. I'm fascinated by what makes people do the things they do. And I had a story to tell myself, and I wondered, you know, what made people do the things they did in the life that I'd had. But what I find fascinating is that before 30, I thought I was stupid and thick and couldn't learn. Post 30, I realized I had a brain and I could learn, and there were things I could do. And so I was interested in, well, certainly belief systems and our thought processes, because when you believe this, your reality is that. And if you're able to look at things from a completely, and it means getting out of your comfort zone to look at things in another way, I believe anything's possible. I really believe that. And so,
sorry, I'm just going to interject for a second, but I definitely can relate to, being told that I couldn't do something. I couldn't write. You're a terrible writer. I feel like you should take extra, and I talk about it in my book a whole bunch, but I was told I couldn't do something. So then I believed that I could not. And I think when something about 30, and then coming into your own, and giving yourself permission and realizing that you are capable of anything, but then knowing you're capable of anything, but what do you want to do with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So, and you'll make mistakes for sure. And you think you want something and it's not what you want, but then I think it can evolve into something more beautiful than you had ever envisioned or imagined. And thank you for sharing your story and your hardships, and they made you who you are, and they brought you to the place of, that project and that gift for people. Right?
Thank you. Well, I love it. And even though I do life coaching as well as paint, I try and get into the studio as much as I possibly can. But I didn't start until the age of 61. I hadn't really picked up a paintbrush for myself. I was looking at other students' work and helping them, but that was one blind spot I had. And then I met someone in Norfolk called Martin Kinnear, who runs the Norfolk Painting School. And I just did some work experience there just to help them out, emptying bins, cleaning pallets. And then the following year, he suggested I came onto his diploma course. And I just haven't looked back. So I went from knowing very little, to now I can't put my paintbrush down. And I laughed at myself the other day because I think I'm doing my own identity project. My work all tends to be very personal. It tells stories. But I am just loving this journey, Brandy. I'm loving it. I never thought it was possible. But if you go back to the identity project, I just hope and wish that all young people have an opportunity to question their values, their beliefs, their hopes, their fears, and just to have someone. It's not good enough to pick up a curriculum and say, this is how you teach this. I think someone has to feel it for the students from their hearts. And what I believe comes across in your own work, and certainly when I've seen clips of you with your children, the bottom line is there's love involved. And when it comes from a place of love, from your heart, I think it moves mountains. And that's what I see you doing. And that's why I was so happy to have this conversation.
Yes, I'm so happy you reached out. I think, and now that you've talked about it, I want to do it. And hopefully that's okay with you. But we just started our academy this month. So, and it's teens, so it's grades 6 to 8. And I think that would just be an invaluable, project for them. And they'd learn so much. And I'd learn so much. I think I'd love to share it with my community as well. I think it's such an interesting thing, and it's not something we consider often. And those are the things that we should consider. We start every class with 5 minutes of self-reflection, and I either play like music without lyrics or like the other day we did self-love, like thinking about something that you really love about yourself, not what someone else likes about you, but what do you really love about yourself? let's think about that. And where do you feel that in your body, and how does it feel? Does it tingle? And not just, let's paint a picture, but let's, help you connect to what creativity is. And it's an expression of you. I don't want your paintings to look like my paintings. It's okay if they do, but I really love it if they look like you. And so I can show them skills, and I can play with mediums, but already it's like I was talking about with the teacher who's working with me, Derek, and he's like, it's so good. It's all so good. Like, I'm jealous. I'm like, I know, it's great. They're so good. And I think all children are, because they have this innate ability, and, they haven't had people say they can't yet. And so there's something really special about that. And to just, building up their confidence muscles. So when someone does say they can't, or they say something, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm amazing,
Yeah.
I would just discount it.
Yeah, I would ask them, do they know anyone that thought they couldn't do something and then was surprised to find out that they could? Just to see that it's possible.
That would be cool.
But I'm happy to share anything or support you, or, I believe in this so fervently. I think it's a brilliant idea for young people to become involved with. The nice thing is I had a private view in December, and some students who I taught, I don't know, 20 odd years ago came and were still talking about it.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. And that's a real honor for someone who's encouraging people to be themselves and to show part of themselves, that they still can remember it. Somebody contacted me via Facebook Messenger the other day, and he said, I don't know if you remember me, but I was in this particular class. And amazingly, I had a photograph of his work that I was able to send back to him.
Oh my gosh.
And he did this enormous painting of his eyes, just across his eyes, but he painted the whole picture using his fingertips, because that was him. Nobody else could ever have done that, because it had his fingerprints all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now in a band and designing album covers. So it's just amazing. It's a privilege. These
things are important.
Yes.
I know sometimes educators can feel like in the system that their life is monotonous, and that it's just too much. And sometimes I think it is for them. I think it is too much all at once. They have to check all these boxes all the time. That can be exhausting. But I also think that they have this beautiful gift and opportunity to change people's whole entire life path with what they say, and what they do, and how they encourage students. And I hope that they see that. And I know a lot of educators do. And now that I get to see them and work with them, it's pretty special seeing our system start to evolve and change, even if it's in small ways. But not every child is the same, and we know that, and they know that. They know that they like hockey, or they like checkers, or whatever. They probably don't like checkers, but they're into those games like Dungeons and Dragons, or they know that they love this, and they know that they don't love that. Like, they have that, like I said, that intuitive sort of thing where, so let's give them a few options. Let's encourage them, and maybe they won't be a visual artist, but maybe they'll be a poet, or use their artwork on and be a musician and use it for album covers, or take it onto murals, or develop the next app for whatever. There's so many applicable ways that creativity can set you up with those skills that you can utilize. So I'm happy that some people locally have taken a chance on just like, oh, Brandy's working with her kids, let's get her to work with ours. It's pretty cool, you know, where I never thought I would be an educator, but I sure do love it.
Well, the interesting thing is that I went into this community college initially, and so you get a set amount of students taking various exam classes, and when students who weren't taking art as a course heard about this project and heard the way that their friends were talking about it, several came to see me and said, I know we're not taking an exam, but please can we do the project? And
wow.
And then I had students who weren't even doing an exam come after school to do the same project because they wanted to ask and answer those questions. Just phenomenal. And then, you know, the French class took it up, and
wow,
it just went crazy. But the level of the work was phenomenal. You know, they won a prize from the Tate Modern, which was really nice, and Anish Kapoor gave them a print because of the work that they did. I mean, it's just lovely.
Wow.
Yeah,
for people to recognize how powerful it is and was, right? It still is. That is crazy. Of course, my husband's a scientist, saw something right now.
It's okay. I can't hear it.
You hopefully can't hear it. That is just our lives. Things happen everywhere, all the time. It's so chaotic now at the stage we're in with our children. Complete chaos stage. But I didn't want to stop doing what you talked about at 30 with that shift of, you know, and I did have such a shift. I was like, I can do anything I want, actually. So then I set out, and the only way you get what you want is if you ask for it. So I asked for a lot of things, and a lot of big things are happening. And I don't regret it in any way, because they're so beyond, they're really important for my community, but also, you know, I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, but I think it's more important that they see me on this journey working so hard. I walked home from school with them, so they see me working in that school. They see me creating. They see me. They probably won't be as psyched next week when I leave to New York for 5 days, but they'll see me in New York following my passion, taking a leap, and they're going to see that I'm a little stressed out and a little afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, there's lessons in that. They show up at the murals I paint and see mom's not at home, but mom's working her butt off on this site, and we're going to bring her water and we're going to help her. Like, that's an important thing for children to see.
What they'll also see is that you don't always get it right, and that when you fall over, you get up again. And I think that's such a valuable lesson for children to learn, rather than this is the way to do it, this is the only way, and you've got it wrong, you've got it right. I think there's lots of ways to do things, and it's okay. You know, I've had to tell myself, because I ended up being a bit of a perfectionist, which that's the opposite to a growth mindset. To the point where I thought, just do another painting, it's okay. But the nice thing is, I kept failing and failing and failing. Suddenly it's just starting to come together.
But it will be stronger because of those failures.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that students, or not just students, I'm talking as a teacher here, but our children see that. I mean, my children definitely have seen that in me. Making mistakes, getting it wrong, and then finding out ways of either doing it differently or putting it right, or, you know, because it isn't just one path. You know, we have to fall over sometimes and get up and dust ourselves off and try other ways. Exactly. I really admire what you're doing. I really admire it.
I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but it seems to work out.
Yeah.
So And that's producing the right answers. That's growing up and going through different education systems and encountering different individuals and knowing what you don't want to say to young people and what you can say, and do your best to encourage them to explore themselves. Do you think that your childhood impacted the way that you work with people?
100%. I think I was on a bit of a quest. I was determined that, definitely, I was determined that that people would feel heard, whether it was members of staff or students initially. I think it's really important to feel heard. I don't believe people are broken. I don't think they need fixing. I thought that of myself once. I don't believe that anymore. I think that we're all doing the best with the tools that we've got. And if we don't have any other tools and we don't know differently, then how can we do it differently? Mm. It has definitely influenced the way I work. And I have, you know, there's a guy called Sydney Banks. I don't know if you've heard of his work, but he's not a painter. He's in fact, I think he had a 9th grade. I think he had something in mechanics or something. But a wonderful man who looks at the way we function as people. He's dead now. But he says, if people only learned not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Mm. And I read something that he'd written which really struck me, and that's, you have an opportunity as an educator to go up to people and tap them on the shoulder and watch while they slowly wake up. And you're a part of that. Not everybody's sleeping, some are. I was in so many areas, and probably still am, have blind spots. But when I woke up to the fact that I could hold a paintbrush and actually apply paint and nobody dies, it's okay. And it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay. It's just the whole thing is a learning journey. It has definitely, I'm sure, impacted the way that I have taught. Going into the community college that I was in, I was a mature. I think I was almost 40 when I started teaching, and it was assumed that I knew what I was doing because I was of a certain age, and it was so scary. I was way out of my comfort zone. I used to shake before I went to school, and it was a tough school. There were all sorts of things happening there, and it was wonderful to see young people turning on to learning, turning on to possibility. So if there was one particular boy that springs to mind who took a lot of drugs, and he came into the art room and gave me a tough time to begin with, and then he challenged everything I said, and then he said, well, look, I'm going to do, it was all challenge, I want to do a painting about what it feels like to take drugs. And then I just found all this amazing artwork, and I said, that's fantastic. And he produced the most amazing artwork. And slowly he came around to the idea of learning. Oh, actually, this is pretty cool. There's so many stories I know.
I like, and I'm just at the beginning, but it was a discovery of, with my own children, how much freedom and joy connecting to that part of themselves. And then I'm like, whoa, this is something. Like, they're just so confident and open and flowing. And then to see, the next, so then working with teens and to get experience for this, I volunteered, and to see them show up being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't, or not saying anything at all, or, dealing with things that teens with trauma deal with, which I have no experience with. So here I show up with, who visually you can see they've gone through something. They're not talking, they don't smile, they're in themselves, hurting. And or they have a different, they can't communicate properly, or whatever those things are. And then seeing the point where we finally get to the creative part, and them just like, there's something, a light bulb clicks on. It's the most
privilege.
You're just like, how, so it's just, the power of it all.
Yeah. And there's adults like that too out here.
Yes.
Who are, have a certain belief system. I would never, that's not for people like me. And it so is, if they only realized. But I think it's just reflecting back to people who they are, who they really are, before all these messages and rubbish that we pick up. Mm-hmm. I believe that inside everybody is a little diamond, and it's got lots of different facets on it. And all the diamonds, no diamond is the same. They're all very different, but they're all very beautiful, and they're all quite pure. And I think that's in all of us. I don't think it's just in some of us. And that reminds me of that poem by Marianne Williamson. As we let our own light shine, we give others permission to do the same. That's what you're doing. You're letting your light shine and allowing other people to do that. Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. That's a gift.
Yeah, it's I don't even know how to respond to that. I'm just so happy that we crossed paths, and I think it was for a reason. And I think, when we work together and when we're not afraid to reach out and connect and make change, I think that's just when it just, we, as women, I honestly, and it's mostly women here, so I have no fear in saying this who are listening, but I honestly think women are going to change the world. We're the key. We're the key because we carry in our hearts the compassion. And I think Meryl Streep, and you're very good at quoting things and memorizing them, but Meryl Streep said something, along those lines, because we want a better world for our children and our grandchildren. And we make change with compassion and love. We don't make change with hate and fear and violence. And for the most part, like, this is a big generalization, but for the women that I know, this is definitely, I already see women making an impact in my own community and how it is evolving and changing the more that gender gap is closing. And it's quite stunning. It's just like, how are we here? And this is so important and special.
Well, the lovely thing is that you're being very proactive. God, quotes keep flying into my head now. But,
keep them coming. I love quotes. I love them.
Dan said, didn't he? Be the change you want to see. You be the change you want to see, and that is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. What was the Michael J. Fox one too about family? I don't know. I'll just find it because I'm not very. Oh, I do have like a great one. And this is great. This is better than the one I want to say, but it's by Jim Carrey. And he says, "How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory."
Absolutely. Amen.
Yes, it's like when he said that to a group of students, graduates, and I was just like crying everywhere. So Jim Carrey, I'm not a YouTuber. I mostly utilize my time in like posting for, inspiring others. I don't have the time to sit, but so YouTube knows that I like inspiring speeches. So they fit
in.
because I post our podcast on YouTube. And so like it does come across once in a while. So thankfully I get fed that the algorithm knows what I like and it's positivity. Yeah. So it's nice.
Absolutely.
It's a nice way I like the algorithm and the way it works for that in that regard. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just said you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. Do you want to talk about your own work and your own process?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I've only been painting for 4 years, but
yeah. You had it in you for a lifetime.
Yeah, I believe it was always there, and I was always fascinated and interested, but just believed it wasn't for me. So when I tell stories, and they're often autobiographical. I try and what I'd like to do through my work is encourage other people to ask stories. And I don't always paint pretty pictures. I might set out to do that, but it doesn't really end up that way. And I'm okay with that now. I used to be a bit self-conscious about it. My first exhibition was banned because I did pictures of children in gas masks. And that came about because I thought how I had in my own life. It was almost like I'd placed a gas mask on my face and I'd put barbed wire around it and I'd shut myself in a room and shut the door. I didn't want anyone to see who I was. I didn't feel very good about myself. But what I realized when I first picked up a brush was, well, if you have shut yourself in, then you can't get out. You've got to get yourself out of here. So that was the idea behind the first series of paintings that I did, and it was lots of children wearing gas masks, and it was autobiographical. It was about my sisters as well. And then as I've gone on, I'm really interested. There's a guy called Shirzad Chamine who writes, because I'm interested in psychology as well. He writes about the saboteurs we have, and he describes 10 saboteurs, the overriding one being the judge. And then I picked, I think it was 6 of those that I could really relate to and painted from that. Yeah, so some of them are stories of my own life or stories that I've heard, sort of amalgamated with mine. But pretty everything comes totally from my heart. I don't see a lovely sunset and think I'd like to paint that because it's just not where I'm coming from, right? Not that I never would. I was quite moved I am incredibly moved by the Ukrainian troubles at the moment. So I've just painted something kind of based on that. I haven't got that far with it yet. She's behind me. I don't know if you can actually see it. There's a woman holding a...
Yeah, hold on, your elbow's in the way.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Down there.
Yeah, and that's quite incredible.
So I might hear something, or this is a picture of my granddaughter over here. And I've just fascinated by...
I can... So 4 years. Yeah, you definitely have been holding that in your whole life.
My word. Well,
incredible.
Fascinated by how I've watched her grow up from an embryo. And she's now 11, 12, she's just turned 12. And I'm fascinated by that liminal time when she's starting to become very aware of her body and herself. And so I've got the chalk drawings in the background, and she's holding the chalk, but quite suggestively, like it could be a cigarette. So I think I see things and I have a response to them, and then I think I want to paint that. Occasionally I'll read something and think, oh, I know what that looks like. So it mainly comes out of my head. I do use models. They come in from time to time. But Brandy, I have so much to learn, so much. I still feel a bit like an imposter, but I felt like that my whole life. And maybe it's just how I feel and I live with it.
I think everyone suffers a little bit from that. Like, who am I? Why do I have the right to do this? And is it supposed to look this way or that way? And those questions always cross our mind. And someone said, actually, one of the students yesterday, she's like, I'm having artist block. And it's cute because she's 12.
Bless her.
And then, how do I get over it? How do I get over it? And the same thing came up in the Jealous Curators newsletter. How do I move past this? And I have an answer.
Oh, what's your answer?
And she does a Dear Artie, so I have to write to her because she asked the community to answer these questions. And I just keep having the answer in my head, and I haven't gotten the time to email her, but I will. Is you show up. You show up every day in all of your forms, and you honor who you are, and you create. And sometimes it will be good, and sometimes it will be bad, and sometimes it will look like this and that. But that doesn't discount it. It's part of your journey. And that is the only thing that you can control is when it's showing up. And it can mean 5 minutes or 15 or an hour or 4. But and once you start showing up, your body and your mind start responding if you do it consistently every day. I know I made a decision years and years and years ago. I wanted my artwork, I wanted to grow as an artist. And I really loved figurative and portraiture work. And how can I get to the level that I want? And how do I get to the level I'm seeing? How do I do it? How do I figure this out in the mediums I love? Yeah. And I did. I showed up every day at the same time. And on the days where, say a Friday night hit and my husband and I would be doing something else, and I would start hearing the music, the playlist that I would listen to, like Feist. So I would start hearing, because her stuff at that time, her new, not the 1, 2, 3, but the raw stuff she makes, because she's a crazy creative, the raw music she makes. I would start hearing that because it was so applicable to my work. It was so raw. And it was I'm very much an expressionist. I go with the moments and how I feel. And so my body and my mind expect at the same time to be doing that same thing. And and I did. And then I overstretched my gift and I started doing custom work, and I did over 130 in 1 year. So now I'm sharing and I'm exploring my creativity in writing in different ways so that well can fill back up.
Yes.
And now I create when I have that energy to create to honor myself. And that was a lesson. But yeah, that's my advice for anyone, is not to stop, not to think about it even. Turn on music and access someone else's way of creating another form of art, whatever that looks like for you. Just show up, right?
Absolutely. Sydney Banks said, if the only thing that people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, I believe
so
that.
Powerful.
Yeah. Show up. Be
Show
you.
Up. Yeah.
Be
1000%. Terri, where can everyone find you and your art and your?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Terri Broughton Artist.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, same, Terri Broughton Artist. I have a website, terribroughtonart.co.uk. So
perfect. I will have all that in the notes for everyone. And I know that we're going to talk more one day, and become friends, even better friends over time, even though there's a sea between us.
Yeah. I came to Canada, actually. I went to Salt Spring Island. I had a wonderful.
Oh, nice.
Into Vancouver, yes.
It's so cool. We go over there to Victoria about once a year. So I need to get near the ocean more and more. I crave it. My body wants it. So all that will happen.
I live near the sea here. It's lovely.
I'll just come visit you.
But if I can support in any way, you really just need to shout.
I will. I'll be wanting to hear more about your program, but I do have to go. I have to get my son, and it was so just like really amazing to meet you. I'm very grateful, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah. Take care, Brandy.
You too.
Bye, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm sure you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. I can't wait to try some of that programming out that Terri developed in the UK. Here in my community, I think it'll just be really, really powerful, especially in the youth that I'm working with. So our challenge to you, not just today, but for 30 days in a row, I want you to take 3 minutes every day. 3 minutes. That's a song. Super fast. To close your eyes and practice gratitude. You will be amazed how it can transform your life. And once you start doing this, you'll never ever want to stop. Thank you so much for being here, friend. Please check out our new we had our mentorship program open in the past, but life, there were some things that took precedent, and I enjoy it so much that I've opened it up again. It's one-on-one creative mentorships, so you can find that on our website. I'll put the link below as well. It's almost full, of course, before I told anyone it was happening. And I hope I get to continue to keep doing it. It's really special, and I love chatting. So feel free on Instagram to reach out. I'm really good at chatting on Instagram or sending emails. I'm one of those people. I answer emails. So my email is art@brandyhofer.ca. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you once again for being here. Have a beautiful weekend.
That's landing on your fake face. You can take it all from me. Am I the wallpaper that you hang when I'm out of style? I will tear you down, tear you down. I look suspicious, rip me open like a suitcase. You can take it all from me. Destroy the evidence that I ever came this way, and I'll be back again. expensive and you hang me up like a painting.
You'll never know, no.
And everybody walking by me says the same thing.
I'm bitter and bashful as I hunt for your finger.
If you're an agent for the unaffected underground,
Press them against mine and then I have one again.
you keep quiet or they'll make you invisible.
Is that all you want? Is that all you want? Is that all you want from me? Is that all you want? Is that all you want? You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. Is that all you want? You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. Is that all you want? 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 Is that all you want?
If you're looking for some time for yourself to relax, release, and unwind, Oasis has the perfect space for you. They offer yoga and spin classes of all levels. Whether you are a beginner or advanced student, Oasis thrives on accommodating all aspects of the practice. Let their serene environment and gracious staff help you in your journey of peace, healing, and strength. Sign up online at www.oasishotyogastudio.com or by downloading the Oasis Hot Yoga Studio app. Feel like yourself. You deserve it.